My name is Soumick Bhattacharya. I am the Global CISO and CDPO for the Mankind Pharma, and I head the practice for entire the cyber defense and the cyber fusion center for the Mankind Pharma. See, basically zero trust security model is something where we are all talking about the people, process and technology, right? So we should not have any implicit allowed or implicitly just to have an access on each and every model of the security for either it is a people or it is a process or it is a technology. So anything and everything on the layer from the layer 0 to layer 7, wherever the security that can be transparent, and then how the security can be enforced on that particular model, we should have to enforce on top of it. So that is the idea basically for the zero trust security model. See, basically what I can say is that I would like to drag the few of the part from the previous question from the zero trust security model, which is very in line with the question of your vulnerability management and then how we can manage the patch and all. So we have to understand that the ring fencing is the most important part in this particular journey itself. So we have to understand that the network is the baseline of our infrastructure where we have to secure that particular portion the first. So anything and everything on the coming from the as a flood from the DDoS model or anything as a zero-day attack which is coming towards our infrastructure, that should have to be taken care in a serious hand. So we always should have a proper anti-DDoS technology. We should have a proper the firewall along with the malware sandboxing and advanced persistent threats, anything which is coming to our network, that should be well taken care of. So that is something that we have to take care of first. And then in terms of the vulnerability management, any vulnerability that is present within our application, within our infrastructure, separately both the things should be well managed, and I mean the periodic update of the vulnerability and the patch which is there that required to be enforced into the system, that should be taken care of. The scanning which need to be done, it should be periodic, and if there is a possibility that we can perform some real kind of scanning also, that definitely is the good idea to go ahead with, so that we never know that if there is any malware is already resides in my network, right? So kind of a security assessment is the biggest posture that we always have to do. Now the next part is that if we talk about the vulnerability management, so there could be tons of numbers of vulnerability can be present in my application or in my network, in my infrastructure somewhere, but performing a typical vulnerability assessment where chances of the true positive or the true negative or false positive, this all reduction is the most important criteria that we have to go ahead with. And once we are having that, the false positive reduction has been done, then vulnerability assessment in terms of the tools and technology as well as the static analysis is also important, because we have to have a complete matchup between these two parts, right? So I think this is the idea for the vulnerability management. And then probably the patch management is the portion which we have to go ahead and do when we have already discovered the vulnerabilities. And then now this is the time to patch those systems, irrespective of it is an application, it is an infrastructure, or it is a network. Yeah, this is a very good question. Basically, security is always having a two different model altogether. One is the cyber defense, and is definitely a portion of red team exercise where we can perform some kind of an attack surface management. We can perform the deep and dark web monitoring. We can perform the true sense of penetration testing, because usually what we have seen that there are in a lot of in the portion we have seen that it is all talk about the vulnerability management and penetration testings along together. But at the end of the day, we find out by coming up with a result that it is just a vulnerability assessment, not even the penetration testing is happening in all the time. So we really have to perform some kind of a penetration testing, where the penetration testing along with a business logic bypass technique also need to be taken care of, where I mean that penetration testing wherever possible, it should be a black box review, a white box review, an authenticated scan, an unauthenticated scan. Along with these things, one we have identified there is a exploitable vulnerabilities there, we have to patch that thing. So there could be tons of number of vulnerability could be present in the system, but until unless that vulnerability, if it is exploitable for me, I am not very much care about those vulnerabilities. In case if it is coming with there could be n numbers of false positive alerts could also be there, right? That reduction and then real sense of exploitable vulnerability need to be reducted on. I think that is the most important criteria. And threat intelligence that we are getting the feed from the different sources of the vendors and all, we are trying to migrate with our SOC environment and the SOAR and UBEA, which is basically where we are trying to understand the pattern of the behavior, pattern and anomaly of all the threats which is coming to our system itself. And then once we understand that threat with the intelligence, we are trying to hunt for the threats. Basically, it is a technique which is called as a hack the hackers.